So, okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. You're welcome to this week's Forex Outlook for the 8th to the 12th of January 2024. I'd like to wish everybody a happy new year, wishing you a divinely blessed and prosperous new year in advance. So, as always, we're going to start with the economic calendar. Looking at the economic calendar, we don't have major USD news until Thursday, Friday. We don't have major USD news until Thursday, Friday. So the pairs we're going to start off with, NASDAQ, that's US 100, dollar index, Euro USD, GBP USD, gold, Euro GBP, pound yen, and Euro yen. So let's start off with the NASDAQ. So looking at NASDAQ on the daily is bullish. We have a break above this high. This is the dealing range, this low to this high. That's the dealing range on NASDAQ from this low at 140.38 to 16,982. That's the dealing range. So the break of this high points to the fact that on the daily, we are bullish. But if you look to the left, on NASDAQ, you can see that price broke above these highs. Let me hide my indicators. So if you notice, there was a close above these highs, but it was not that convincing enough, but there's still a close. It's not a very strong close. It's kind of a weak close. And then we have a retracement back into the range that price broke out from. So on the daily, this pair is in a retracement. So on the daily is bearish. On the daily, he's bearish. He's not yet bullish on the daily. If we go down to the 4-hour, we can find that on the 4-hour, he's bearish. This low that created this high, here, price has closed below it. So looking at the US 100 going into this new week, we would need to see what price does first. We have almost like a breaker, but it's not yet fully formed. We have all these equal highs here. So two things. For this to continue bullish, we need to see this. To confirm that the retracement has ended and price may continue to the upside, we need to see something like this, which will be a close above all this. Then price will retrace into the broken range, then a continuation to the upside. That's to confirm the bullish nature, the end of the retracement on the 4-hour. But if price should do this instead, that's this low, if price should do this instead, then we might see further continuation to the downside on the NASDAQ. As you can see, there's this fair value gap here on the daily that price has not yet touched. Price just touched it and bounced, creating a doji kind of setup, an indecision candle on the daily. So we need to wait and see. So for this is still slightly tilted to the downside. This is still tilted to the downside. So as long as we don't get that setup I noted on the 1-hour, you might watch this for a spike, liquidity spike, and a continuation back to the downside. The next paper we're going to be looking at is the dollar index. Looking at the dollar index is let me go back to this. The dollar index. If we look at the dollar index on the daily, it's bearish. You can see it's bearish on the daily. This is the dealing range high. This is the dealing range low. That's 104.26 to 164. But if we look at this from the weekly, this is not bearish on the weekly. 99.57 to 107.34 seems to be the dealing range, and the break of these two highs is bullish. But on the weekly, on the daily, it's bearish on the daily. On the 4-hour, it's in a retracement. We have this big fair value gap here. So if I now go back to this, my chart here, on the weekly, price got to the top of this fair value gap and rejected. If we notice, we have this fair value gap here also. We go to the daily. If we go to the daily, this is where it becomes a bit just like I said, this is the dealing range high. This is the daily range high. This is the daily range low. So price is retracing deeply into the dealing range on the daily. But if I put my annotations, I have a lot of annotations there. Let me hide my indicators. We have this fair value gap here, and it's a balanced price range. One candle down, one candle up. So that in and of itself is a little bit of a challenge. So we need to see what price is going to do here going into the new week. So if we drop down to the 4-hour time frame, it's already setting up on the 4-hour time frame. Price is already setting up bearish on the 4-hour time frame. We already have a close below this low on the 4-hour. So we have a bearish breaker on the 4-hour. So as long as price does not go above this fair value gap, then we might see a continuation to the downside on the dollar index. But if that should happen, you watch this zone here. This balanced price range may act as support. So if the retracement is happening, you just be careful that it may not sweep this low. So what you'll be watching for is something like this. It may just come here, give you something like this and continue back up. Or once you get a close below, wait for a retracement and then a continuation back down. So for the dollar index going into the new week, we'll be a little bit cautious to see what happens. The 4-hour has already hinted that we might be looking at a move to the downside because we have a breaker above here and then a move down. The low that created the high, price has closed below. So we might see a bit of a continuation back to the downside or a range kind of trade using the 4-hour time frame. The next one we're going to be looking at is EURUSD. If we look at the EURUSD from our structural point of view, on the weekly, this pair is bearish. This is a dealing range high. This is a dealing range low. This low has been broken. On the weekly, is bearish. If we go into the daily, on the daily, is bullish. Because on the daily, this is the dealing range. This point to this point. So for it to become very, very bearish on the daily, price has to close below 107.23. Then if you move down to the 4-hour time frame, the 4-hour time frame is where we have a little bit of a challenge because we have what looks like a breaker here. So if I go back to this, we have what looks like a breaker here, but nobody close above this point. So we would need to wait and see what price does on Monday. But be it as it may, if you drop down to your 1-hour time frame, as long as price does not go below the previous week's low, price may come down to try to close this week before continuing back to the upside. But if we look at it on the 1-hour, we can clearly see there's a close above 1.0972. So this might just be a retracement for a continuation to the upside on the EURUSD. So on the EURUSD, slightly bullish on the lower time frames. as long as price does not close below 108.77. So the next one we're going to look at is GBPUSD. The GBPUSD has a little bit more clearer view than the EURUSD. If we look at the GBPUSD, if we look at it from the weekly, it's slightly bearish. This point, this is a deep retracement. If we go into the daily, on the daily, this pair is bullish on the daily. On the daily, he's bullish. He's making new body close highs. As you can see, the bodies are closing above the previous highs. Let me hide my indicators. This high, as you can see, we have a body close, but not very strong. But if we look at this, strong body close above, retracement continuation. So the GBPUSD seems to have a more clearer direction than the EURUSD. So if we go back to this pair on the 4-hour, in this, we're looking like something that has a head and shoulder, left, head, right. So we have what looks like equal lows here, and we have this high. So if we drop down now to this pair, we can see on the 1 hour, we have a break above here. So we'll be waiting for a retracement and a continuation back to the upside on the GBPUSD. The next one we're going to be looking at is gold. Looking at gold, gold is still slightly tilted to the upside, but since we have a body close above 2051, any retracement that doesn't close below 2025 might be an opportunity for price to sweep 2066 and probably come up near 2078. So for gold, gold is still slightly tilted to the upside going into the new week. The next one we're going to look at is EURGBP. EURGBP is bearish. EURGBP is bearish, as we can see. Any retracement on this pair will be an opportunity for price to come down to 0.8571. That is provided we don't get a body close above 86.39. A body close above 86.39 on the 4-hour might signal a deeper retracement before a continuation back to the downside. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is pound yen. Pound yen is in a range. It's in a range of a sort. If you look at it from the daily, it has a bullish situation, but it's in a range. So going into this new week, I have a feeling that this may spike this high, come into this fair value gap and move to the downside. As we can see, we have this break above here. So this might still retrace in here before a continuation back to the upside. So we'll be waiting to see what price does. Maybe if price does something like this, then you take a shot to the downside on this pair. So the next pair we're going to look at, the last but not the least, is Euro Yen. Euro Yen, as you can see, he has swept his highs. He has swept his highs. So what you'll be waiting for on this pair, if we drop down to the 1 hour time frame, is something like this to sell into the retracement down. Close below here on the 1 hour, retracement, rejection, first target, second target here. So that's what we have on the Euro Yen. Any questions? Any questions? Just like I explained to you guys for the BTC, the Bitcoin, do you see what I said? We'll be waiting to see what price. You can watch it on your own to see if price will continue back to the downside. So any questions?
Summary.
The summary dollar index might still tilt the downside going into the new week. NASDAQ, we might see a bullish move. Euro USD, uncertain but slightly bullish. Pound GBP USD, very bullish. Gold is slightly uncertain. Euro GBP is bearish. Pound yen might still move down to the downside after sweeping the highs. Euro yen, wait for a break of the low to continue to the downside. So
Okay.
that is it. So I wish everybody a beautiful night's sleep and a blessed and wonderful trading week ahead. So good night, everybody, and happy new
Thank
year
you.
once again.
Good night.